Okay, guys, we got to talk about San Francisco real estate because the commercial sector is getting absolutely hammered right now. It's not great at all, especially if you're one of these big landlords or one of the many investors who invested into San Francisco commercial real estate during the pandemic because it was cheap, 0% interest rates. It was a no brainer, right? It was pretty much everyone's thing to go over leverage on office real estate because everyone was expecting many of these big San Francisco tech companies to simply come back to the office. But no, okay, one, the city did a pretty terrible job at maintaining a low crime rates during the 2 years of the pandemic. And then afterwards, it's just absolute Armageddon. You got like Target's closing down, CVS, and of course, when your local Starbucks is closing down in San Francisco, that's not exactly the best sign in the world. And the city's lax laws is making criminals just wander around the streets, looting stores and cars, and even boats at this point. So Dropbox is now kind of sick and tired of this. They're like, you know what? Since so many tech companies are leaving, we're going to be shrinking our offices, and Dropbox will be handing over 25% of the San Francisco headquarters space back to the landlord as commercial real estate slowly softens more and more. Now, commercial real estate softening isn't a San Francisco thing. It's also a Seattle thing. It's a LA thing. But San Francisco is leading a charge in terms of vacancy rates. Go to Miami, for example, they're doing fine, right? The Miami downtown vacancies for offices is less than 7%. Even Manhattan, despite what everyone says it's pretty bad, it's less than 15. Seattle's less than 15. Hong Kong is around 15, maybe even less than that. And even places like, for example, Sydney, Australia, we're seeing vacancy rates under 20%, right? Obviously, it's not a great sign, but like I said before, many of the first tier cities around the globe, they don't have vacancies like near the 40% like San Francisco. And Dropbox is kind of sick of it. Initially, many of these companies want to expand their office space in San Francisco. Like before the pandemic, vacancy rates for offices were less than 5%. In fact, in San Francisco back then, if you own an office space, you're guaranteed to make money. You could get a tenant super easy just by dropping your rents down 1 to 5%. And there'll be like a whole entire line of companies and startups begging to rent your space. But now, if you check it out, even Dropbox is done, handing back over 165,000 square feet of its San Francisco headquarters to the landlord. They're pretty much downsizing by 25%. Now, office vacancies are the highest since 2007, which we all know what happened. It's like the massive '08 recession. But even Uber has now abandoned their own office space. They're kind of done with this whole situation, but at least Uber got some luck and they're renting out about 500,000 square feet of space to OpenAI, which is like ChatGPT, and they're finalizing the deal. This is insane. I don't know why OpenAI wants to go to San Francisco when there's so many better places to go to, but I guess, there's still a lot of big tech guys who still really, really want to go to San Francisco. Now, OpenAI will be having 2,000 employees in this new office space. And yes, this is a win for San Francisco commercial real estate, but keep in mind that when you only have one major guy in months and months leasing out a massive space, and then you have guys like Meta, Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, Reddit all downgrading their offices like crazy, it's not a win-win. We're seeing still a massive outflow of tech companies and commercial real estate space in the Bay Area. Oakland is even worse. It's about like 38-40% vacancies at this point. And if you also look around, you also have LinkedIn, which is kind of funny because LinkedIn is the company that deals with jobs. And they're saying that they will be abandoning some of the top floors of its San Francisco skyscraper in the Soma district. So this is a big deal. And LinkedIn is also shrinking their offices. Airbnb used to have a bunch of different buildings and headquarters in the city. Now they have pretty much downgraded to one single office building. And that's pretty much a massive deduction. Meta is also pretty sick and tired of San Francisco, and they will be looking to offload all of its office space at the luxurious 181 Fremont, which is by far one of the most expensive office spaces in all of San Francisco. And let me just show you how good this looks. 181 Fremont, look at this skyscraper. It looks fantastic. It's next to the Salesforce Transit Bay. It's next to the Salesforce building. This is just prime real estate, prime downtown tech real estate. It screams money. But now even Meta is looking to dump about 500,000 square feet of office space. And it's trying to pretty much get a sublease going, right? They're trying to get someone else to take it over because this lease isn't ending in the next few years. And obviously the landlord of this building, they're pretty freaked out too, don't get me wrong. I mean, it kind of sucks to really see a massive tower like this just totally be abandoned at this point. So you just have just a lot of commercial real estate pain. Like I said before, a few AI companies is not going to be saving San Francisco real estate. We're still seeing office vacancies slowly tick higher, which is really worrisome because it's not just the average retail trader that's investing in Bay Area real estate, because the average investor don't have money, right? They have probably maybe a few condos here and there, a few small buildings, but many of these huge buildings are all leased and owned by some of the biggest corporations in the United States. And when you have hundreds of small regional banks being heavily over leveraged in commercial real estate, especially the San Francisco real estate sector, it's not great. You're seeing common aspects of massive, very expensive buildings being sold for a bare minimum 40% off up to 85% off in some cases. It's a terrible situation in the commercial real estate market when you're selling things for double-digit percentages off, and it's worse than that. It's more like 50, 60, 70% off. It's not a great deal, especially you got examples like Wells Fargo building, right? They're right next to the Trans-America Pyramid building. I love this example because they recently sold their building for $48 million. But guess what they bought it for? They bought it for $108 million back in 2005. Yeah, we all know what happened in 2005. It was the peak of the housing situation. They bought in $105 million. And I mean, sure, the bubble did pop, but 2 decades of price appreciation and you still sold it for about 50 to 60% off. That's a pretty terrible real estate market, all things considered. I mean, Hong Kong, Manhattan, for example, they all have massive declines in commercial real estate value. But at least if you bought it back 20 years ago, you're still making a good 2, 3, even some cases 5x in some buildings. So it's not great. Dropbox is the latest company pretty much downsizing office, and this isn't like small spaces. We're talking about 165,000 square feet, and this is just the companies that make it on like CNBC News, Wall Street Journal. You have hundreds of smaller startups that leased out 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 square feet of office space. Many of these startups are moving to Zoom. They're going online. Many are going to Las Vegas and Miami. You're seeing places where it's traditionally not tech having tech. Las Vegas, Sin City, gambling, right? But you have tech conferences and tech companies being headquartered there. Same thing with Miami, beaches, hospitality. But now you have some of the biggest corporations and even pharmaceutical companies, also finance companies being headquartered there, even dubbed Wall Street of the South. And another massive tech boom is happening in Miami. So you're actually seeing some pretty big drastic changes in this whole entire situation here. And Dropbox, yeah, I mean, they're kind of done with this whole situation, and I don't blame them. I mean, if San Francisco, the city, was really well kept and really well maintained, I think many of these companies will be willing to just pay the extra rent and stay. I think a lot of these companies don't really want to leave. They really don't. But of course, with what happening in the city, high crime, very high homelessness, high drug use, many of these high tech CEOs, they're just leaving.